up and running as well. Hi Facebook. I was just saying to my friends on Instagram that I'm not quite ready, but I looked at the time and I thought, you know what, let's just do it anyway. How bad can it be? So I'm going to cook 2 things for the weekend, and I have just been loving the flowers that are coming out at the moment. And for those of you who don't know, tomorrow is National Garden Day. And if you go on after this, you'll find a whole website, gardenday.co.uk. I think it is, gardendayuk.co.uk. Anyway, you'll find it. And Amy, lovely Amy on Facebook, hi, I'm sure you'll pop a link up. And it's an amazing day, and they are organising so many people to do virtual workshops. You might have heard Simon Lysett talk about it yesterday when he and I were chatting together. And I'm going to be doing a session for them. I know I don't normally do my IGTVs or my Facebook Lives on a Sunday, but actually they asked me ages ago if I would do this. And I said, actually, do you know what? I think it would be a lovely thing to promote and to talk about. So if I can do the 12:30 slot, then all my guys here who are used to tuning in at 12:30 can hopefully join with that as well. So it's going to be a real special tomorrow. Apparently the symbol of Garden Day is a flower crown. How amazing is that? One of these really beautiful things. And in fact, on the Earle Wellbeing magazine Instagram this morning, they popped a picture of me wearing a flower crown, which I shall put onto my Instagram a bit later too. So anyway, so my day got off to quite a busy start. It doesn't kind of feel like a Saturday. Excuse me, I'm just going to reach for a tissue. It's really hot in my kitchen. And you may have seen that I went for a 5k run this morning. Oh my goodness, it nearly killed me. Honestly, I got to about 3k and I thought, I don't think I can do this. But when I'm out with Michael, if we go running in the park, he's great because he's beside me. Do you know what? He cheats. He rides his bicycle. I run. He's on the bike. I mean, what's all that about, Michael, if you're watching? And I know it's because he says he goes for a run for himself at like 4:30 in the morning or something ridiculous, and then, works out with all his clients during the rest of the day. So he's got to ride his bicycle. Okay, I get it. But anyway, he's normally right beside me, and he's going, come on, Liz, you can do this, dig deep, just breathe, shoulders back, relax, and of course, when you're on your own, you've got to be really quite motivated. So I created a little playlist, and I'm going to find out how I can share that, because I did mention this before, because I have a personal Spotify account, but you're not going to want all my random kids in the car kind of songs. So I'm going to work out how we can do this, because we did it at Christmas. We did a Earle Wellbeing Christmas playlist, and if you love Christmas tunes like I do, then you can still find that to download. It's a really good one. There's one rogue one in there which you have to spot. Anyway, so first thing this morning, I actually made a running playlist full of really kind of motivational tracks that I thought would keep me going on my own, and I put my little headphones in. I got to 3k, and then this great track came on, and I just thought, actually, yep, I can push through it. And it was the Katy Perry song Raw. Do you know that one? And it really picks me up sometimes. The lyrics in that, it's about, you're going to hear me roar because I am a champion and I'm going to show you. So anyway, that's what kind of got me through it, and I did it, and I felt really pleased with myself. So possibly rather stupidly, I put a little film clip, literally as I just got off my treadmill. I filmed a little film clip and put it on my stories, and I look absolutely terrible. I'm a red beetroot sweating heap, with massive great bags under my eyes because the light in that room is just awful, and I didn't have a particularly good night's sleep. So, but anyway, I thought, what? That's actually the reality of it. So, I have actually had a shower, washed my hair, put some makeup on. So hopefully I'm looking a tad better than I was, but it has made me late because I had to do all of that. And I find, because I was literally purple in the face, it takes ages for that to come down. So I'm still a bit red and a bit hot. Whew. And I tried putting the fan on. I've got a fan in the kitchen, and I thought, I know what, I will have the fan going because then I won't get hot as I cook. And of course it made too much noise. So I thought it was very mindful, Facebook, that last time I had my window open, everyone complained that there was this massive, gale force breeze coming and making the sound very crackly. So tell me, does it sound crackly? You must please tell me, be honest with your comments on Facebook, because I do have the window open. Otherwise, I'm going to be like a boil in the bag, pee wearing this. I'm just going to be so hot that it's just going to be ridiculous. But if it makes a difference to you guys, you know, tell me, because I am nothing if not willing to suffer for my art. So let's crack on, enough chit chat. I am going to do 2 things today, like I said. I am going to do a couple of my favourite things. One is from Yearbook 1, if you've got that here. Whoops, that was my pen on the floor. And this is on page 86, and it's baked eggs and peppers, and it's a really good, that's what the dish is hopefully going to look like. It's really simple. It's eggs and onions and a bit of feta cheese. You can be really forgiving with it. You can, you know, you don't have to use everything. If you haven't got everything, if you don't like everything, there are certain things that I don't put in the recipe because I don't like them, and I'll come to that. So all my recipes are really adaptable. So this is, I'm going to just read the recipe just so I make sure that I'm not doing it so ridiculously wrong. But basically, I'm just going to put on the stove top a good splash of extra virgin olive oil. You know how I love my extra virgin olive oil. And then I have sliced up a red onion. The recipe calls for 2 onions, but I don't have 2 onions, so I've just made 1. Oh, hello dog, what are you doing in here? You're not supposed to be in here. Don't look at me like that. She might come round here in a minute. Anyway, so I've got a thinly sliced red onion. The reason why I use red onion is partly because of taste, but also if you look at that, that's the slice of the red onion. You can see it's purpley skin, and that is a really healthy pigment. And they contain polyphenols, these any kind of fruit or veg that's purple in colour, so make aubergines or the skin on dark grapes, for example, have got special anthocyanins in them, which is a form of antioxidant, which is really healthy. And we also know that onions have a form of indigestible fibre, which is very good for our good gut bugs. I'm going to need a spoon. So I'm just going to soften those while I carry on chatting, because I'll take about 10 minutes or so. And hopefully they'll do quickly. I might just shove in a bit of salt and pepper while I go. That's some pepper and that's some salt. So let's just leave that cooking away. Sorry to leave you, my kitchen setup is not great. I do promise you, maybe I can just scoot this around a little tad like that. When we were all out of lockdown, and I don't have to do this all on my own, in my own kitchen, with my phone balanced on a pile of books, then I will try and do it properly, and we'll have a crew. Can you imagine? We might have somebody actually setting it up nicely, and so we can do camera angles and you'll be able to see things. What's this from Lynn on Facebook? I put my extra virgin olive oil in the fridge the other day and it didn't freeze, as you were talking about. Okay, so this is a good test. If you've got your extra virgin olive oil, actually what I might do is I might put some of this in a glass bowl and put it in the fridge, and I'll show it to you next week to show you what the proper stuff is supposed to do, because if it's real extra virgin, it will solidify, so you'll get this dark yellowy wax basically, because the bits that you want, the goodness in the extra virgin olive oil, will harden if it's refrigerated. So it's a really easy test, and a lot of adulteration that goes on with olive oil. It's really hard to test. So, always buy from a reputable supplier, but even then you might just want to test it, see how good it is. So into my onions, I am going to do some sliced peppers. This is basically sliced peppers with some eggs. So it is very low in carb, as you guys probably know by now. I try and cut down on the carbs, definitely cut down on the sugars, and keep my fats and proteins high. That's one of the key kind of ways that I like to eat. So I've just shoved a couple of red peppers in there. The recipe actually says if you can get coloured peppers, then great. So you could use green and yellow. I actually prefer to use just the red ones because they are riper, and I just find them easier to digest. I just like the redness of them. Again, lots of natural plant pigments, which are where all the vitamins are. I might just pop a lid on that actually, because I think it'll cook more quickly. So bear with me. I think this lid might hopefully work. Yeah, there you go, perfect. Right, so that's just going to cook away. And then you can add spices to that. So the spices that this recipe calls for, it calls for cumin. I don't like cumin, so I'm not going to use it. But I am going to use some smoked paprika. Isn't this a cute little tin? I bought this when I was in Spain. So I often buy herbs and spices in bulk on the internet because they're much cheaper, and I'll maybe share them with my friends or my mum, and much cheaper than buying the little packets, and then just find nice tins and things to keep them in. So I am going to use smoked paprika. The other thing that the recipe calls for is chili, fresh chili, like that. I don't like chili. I find it can be overpowering. Tiny bit, yeah, I get it, that it can enhance the flavour. I don't know what you think about chilies. My boys love chilies. So whenever I do anything like this, I always do chopped chilies on the side, and then you can add it in, or a hot chili sauce. Okay, so Joanna's just joined us on Instagram. She says she's come in late. Can you tell me what you're cooking? Yes, I can. So I'm cooking from my yearbook 1. So these are seasonal yearbooks that are split into spring, summer, autumn, winter. And this is a summer recipe. Actually, it's a summer supper recipe, but I like it as a brunch recipe. And it's baked eggs, so lots of really good quality fats and protein, with peppers and chopped tomatoes. Excuse me. A little bit of feta. I'm going to use some pine nuts at the end. You can use coriander or parsley. I don't like coriander, but a lot of people in my household do, so I might use coriander at the end and just pick it out. Did you know that whether or not you like coriander is genetic? Yeah. So it's a gene that controls our love or loathing for coriander. So for some people, it tastes really soapy and kind of slightly bitter, and that's me. So I don't get it at all, and that's also for Lily. She's not a coriander fan. But for others, my boys, for example, love coriander. So it's weird, isn't it? So maybe you've got people in your family, some of them who like it and some of them who don't. I've got my floral mug today because I've got a little bit of a flower theme going on. And this one, for those of you who are asking, is made by a girl called Joanna Stoddart. Joanna Stoddart Art. Anyway, really pretty, fine bone china mugs. So this is one of the few mugs actually that I can drink coffee and tea out of. Do you have special mugs where you only like drinking tea? It's got to be a certain mug for your tea. Certainly I have that, and I certainly have it with coffee. I can't drink coffee out of a tea mug. Just doesn't work. It just doesn't really kind of taste right. Anyway, not that I'm weird or anything. I think you know that by now, don't you? So that is my egg recipe, and the other recipe that I wanted to show you is actually out of yearbook 2. Oh, I've just discovered my apron. I should probably put this on. So this, I know a couple of comments about it. This is an Aspiga number. I mentioned Aspiga before, Aspiga.com, and it's an ethical, sustainable fashion brand where they pay workers properly. They employ a lot of beaders and skilled labour in Kenya and India, developing countries. Often the women are in women's cooperatives, and they've often been rescued from being victims of domestic violence, which sadly is very, very common in many parts of the world, even more so than here. So I should actually cover this up because it's a really pretty linen, and I'm going to get it splashed otherwise. So I shall wear my Wellbeing pink apron. I do love this shade of pink. And when I chose it actually as my brand colour for Liza Wellbeing, it just seemed right. Partly it was based on the camellia flower that was growing in my studio's gardens, but also it's just kind of, it's that expression, isn't it, of being in the pink, and it's a very flattering colour to wear. When you wear pink next to your face, it just kind of reflects nice light up into your skin, so it doesn't drain you. I find that if I wear black, I tend not to wear black in the country actually, it just doesn't kind of work. I might wear dark brown or navy, but black in the countryside is just a bit too urban. I got my black wardrobe in my studios in London, and then I just sort of accent that with flashes of colour. Anyway, I do like wearing pink. Yeah, and it works quite well, doesn't it? Thank you for that. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, the kind of bright turquoise and the pink. Let me just give these a stir before I forget. So I've got in here, for any of you other late arrivals, this is just some red onion, some salt and pepper, and some sliced red peppers that are just softening. And the other recipe that I want to show you and talk about actually comes from yearbook 2. That's this one. So this is yearbook 2. You can get these only from Liza Wellbeing. They're on the website. And this is a really lovely one. This is also from the summer section of yearbook 2. And this is all about freezing fruits and making really healthy snacks. You've got frozen pineapple rings on sticks. You've got frozen slices of watermelon, you know, really fun things. But this is what I'm going to make tonight, because last night, who was doing VE Day celebrations, by the way? I realise I'm still really shiny, sorry. Were you all doing virtual tea parties? We didn't do a virtual tea party because we're kind of on our own here. Well, I know most of the people are, but, you know, we don't have neighbours all around us to kind of gather with. So we watched a lot online, watched a lot of the singing, the celebrations. Oh my goodness, Catherine Jenkins, what a voice. Incredible, isn't it? Out of that little thing comes this amazing voice. It's brilliant. So we started a bit of a barbecue, and then I've been recommended to watch this film, which if you haven't seen it, actually, I really rate it. It's called A Royal Night Out, and it's set on VE Day. So I thought, absolutely, somebody sent me a link to it and said, look, you know, if you're looking for a family movie, and it's safe, it's all ages, because I've got a 10-year-old in the house, so it's quite hard to find films that I actually want to watch, you know. There's only so many times that you can watch kind of a Lego movie in the evening, which is great, but nice to be able to have family films that we can all watch that have got good content and a nice story. So this was based allegedly on a true story. I don't think it's that true at all, but we do know apparently that Queen Elizabeth, when she was Princess Elizabeth, and her sister Princess Margaret on VE Day, did actually slip out of Buckingham Palace and join the crowds. And this is a story about allegedly what they did and what they got up to. And of course, you know, Margaret got up to lots of mischief, and the Queen was being very responsible and trying to find her in the crowds. And it's a really fun film. So we watched it. And then my youngest one said, oh, you know, have we got any ice cream? Because I keep ice cream in the fridge with cones, so they can, you know, make their own ice cream sometimes if we're watching a movie. And, you know, I did something that I don't think I've ever done before. And I know it's a real kind of Bridget Jones thing, but he brought in the ice cream tub, and it was just a chocolate ice cream, regular chocolate ice cream. And he'd had his, and his older brother had some as well. And then I just picked up the tub of ice cream and a spoon, and do you know what? I ate the whole thing. I mean, it wasn't full. Honestly, it wasn't full, I promise you. There was maybe, I don't know, a quarter left in it. Maybe a bit more. Anyway, I just sat on the sofa in front of this film. And I suppose because the lights were off and it was dark and, you know, nobody was watching. Anyway, I just ate it. And I don't even love ice cream. Isn't that just... Anyway. So that is my confession for today. But it made me think I am going to make some frozen things, like frozen yogurts, which will be healthier. And we know that gut bugs survive freezing. You know, probiotics, they don't like getting hot, they don't like being warm, but they don't mind being cold. So you can actually make, and I know on Wellbeing on the website we've got recipes and ideas. You can make frozen kefir, you can do all sorts, frozen yogurt. Just give this another stir. Oh yeah, that's great. That's going really well, just softening really nicely with the extra virgin olive oil that's in there. So anyway, so I was flicking through this one, Yearbook 2, and I came across this recipe which I'd forgotten about, which is basically really simple. It's plain live yogurt, which I've got in here. This is the one that I made. And into that you mash up various things. Now, I tried to find my Whizzy Gadget thing, hand blender, just before I started this, and I couldn't find it. So I'm going to have to mash it by hand. Excuse me for leaving you unattended for a moment. But I've got some nice raspberries. Look at that. It's great, isn't it, this time of year? Ah, just so good. Raspberries, look at that. And also they are low sugar raspberries, and you can actually eat quite a lot of raspberries without them spiking your blood sugars. So I wonder what's best to do with this. Maybe I'll just mash them in here like that, because you want to kind of combine. Yeah, that's working really well actually. So you want to mash up your raspberries, and I'm just going to use a handful. I might not use all of them actually, or maybe I'll just mash part of them and leave some of them whole, because it's quite nice, isn't it, to find a nice chunk of something. So yeah, I'm going to mix that in. And then to sweeten it, this is actually a Persian-inspired recipe because it uses rose water. Love rose water. So you need just, you can buy this online, just a little bit of rose water. This is just naturally distilled rose water, so I'm going to use a tiny bit because it's really concentrated. So I'm just going to pop that in as a little bit of flavouring. And the nice thing about rose water is it makes things taste really sweet and floral without actually adding any extra sugar. I must share with you something else actually. When I was in the cupboard and I was looking for my rose water, oh, the smell! That is amazing. That raspberry and rose smell is really good. Really, really good. So I'm going to be freezing this. And then what the recipe calls for is a little bit of honey. So this is my local honey, West Country honey. So I'm going to use, do you know, I don't really think it needs any honey, but I'm just going to add a little bit because that's what the recipe calls for. So I'm just going to pop a little bit in there. And then what else does it say? Does it call for anything else? I don't think it does actually. Yogurt, raspberries, honey, rose water, dried rose petals. Well, I'm going to use fresh ones because I haven't dried them, and pistachios finely chopped. I don't have any pistachios. Just mix that honey in. But I do have some pecans. And I kind of thought, you know, pecans, pistachios. I mean, pistachios will obviously give it that Persian flavour. But I'm just going to break up here some pecans, and I'll just show you very quickly what I'm going to do with that. So, meanwhile, I guess I ought to look at my egg recipe. Oh dear, why did I decide to do two things today when I wasn't properly prepared? Anyway, there we are. Oh, thanks, Amy. Honestly, Amy's doing such a great job on Facebook. She's putting up links to all sorts of great things. Yes, Sally, you can use frozen raspberries. Absolutely you can, because you're actually going to freeze this. So it wouldn't be a problem. You could put them in frozen and then refreeze them. Well, in fact, they probably stay frozen, so you'd have no issue. So let me just quickly whiz back to year but one. So I am into my peppers and onions. I'm going to add some garlic. I love garlic. Might not be a big fan of chilli, but I'm a massive fan of garlic. So I'm using 3 cloves of garlic going in there. So just to recap, I've got my red onions sliced. I have got my red peppers, but you could use mixed coloured peppers if you want. I've got my little bit of salt and pepper. That's all in extra virgin olive oil, and that is just going to soften down nicely. And at this stage, I will add my spices. If you want to add chilli, this would be the stage to do it. I'm going to use just, if you wanted to use cumin as well, which is what the recipe calls for, then you could. I don't like it, so I'm not going to pop it in, but I am going to put in a nice generous teaspoonful of smoked paprika, which is kind of like a sweet, smoky, peppery flavour. Really good. You can actually add a bit of turmeric to this as well if you wanted. You know, turmeric baked eggs go really well. So I will then pop the lid back on that, just let that simmer away. Oh, I do look forward to the day when I might have somebody else helping me with some camera work, and then you could actually see what was going on. I wonder if I can lift this up here. Oh, there you go. Yeah, can you see? See all the steam coming off that? There we are. So pop that back on here. That can continue to soften. Now back to the yogurt. Where was I? Oh yeah, I was crushing up some pecan nuts. So you can either do this the kind of smart way if you want to like serve it for a party, or you can do it the cheap way if it's just for you. And that is, just double check that I'm doing it the right way here. If you have dried rose petals, which you can dry yourself, you can crystallise them, they're really easy. These I just picked just now actually from my garden. You might have seen a picture I put on Instagram earlier this morning. These are a climbing rose. It's a David Austin variety. It smells amazing. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I will look it up and I will put it on my Instagram. Oh, it just smells so good. So if you've got homegrown roses, or you know somebody who grows them, then you can take the petals and you can dry them, or you can crystallise them, and you do that by whipping up some egg whites and dipping them in egg whites and sugar and just leaving them to crystallise. And you can do it with violets and all sorts. I mean, it's just really such a lovely thing to do. I wouldn't do it necessarily with shop-bought roses, commercial roses, because you don't know what they've been sprayed with, and obviously if you're going to eat it. But there are edible flower companies and all sorts that will provide things, or obviously if you're buying organic flowers, then you'd be okay. Just to say, actually, I was in France. Where was I? Chantilly. Yeah, has anybody been to Chantilly? It's just outside Paris. Beautiful. I went to a super smart party there. It was a friend of mine, very wealthy friends, and they took over Chantilly Castle for a 50th birthday. It was amazing. And anyway, that weekend, I went for the weekend, I had a look around Chantilly, and it's just such a pretty little town. And it's full of chocolatiers and patisserie shops and really fun things. And I found this here, which I kind of keep for special occasions. It's a rose syrup. It's a French rose syrup, Syrup Savoy Rose. I'm sure you can find this kind of thing online. Anyway, it's lovely, and you can use that onto puddings and desserts, and you can put it into yogurts and things like that. Obviously, it's got sugar in it because it's a syrup, whereas this doesn't have any added sugar apart from the honey, which I've just put in because that is, I've just used rose water. Oh, which is smelling great. So if you wanted to be super smart, then you could take a dariole mould or just a little tumbler like that, and you'd put your dried or your crystallised rose petals in the bottom, and then you'd put your pistachio nuts in the bottom. I haven't got pistachio, so I'm using pecans. And then on top, if I do that here, you might just see it on the edge. You then spoon in your raspberry yogurt mixture. And actually thinking about this while I'm doing this, I would actually stir in a splash of kefir as well, just because. And then what I might do is I've kept a few of those raspberries back, so I've got the nuts are on the bottom here, potentially with the rose petals as well. And I might just pop a few of those little raspberries down like this, because what will then happen is you pop this in the freezer, and then when you want to eat it, you could, if you were sitting on the sofa just wanting a bit of a scoff, like I was last night, you could just eat it straight. Or if you were wanting to be really smart, just dip that into hot water to loosen it for a second or two, tip it up, and then you'd have this really beautiful little frozen yogurty thing. And then you could scatter that on the top with some more pistachio nuts and some crystallized rose petals. Or if you've got some fresh roses, you know, you could just scatter the plate with fresh roses like this. So pretty, so easy. So yeah, so that's what it looks like. For those of you that haven't got the book, that's what it looks like when it comes out. Isn't that lovely? So that's yearbook 2 if you've got it, on page 110. I send these out signed, by the way, from the farm for anybody who wants one. So let's finish off the eggs. So I have now got simmering in the pan. I have got, I'm just getting some messages coming in from Amy here. This is interesting actually. I might just answer this one quickly before I go on to the eggs. This is from Linda, talking about Remedy Kombucha, which is a really nice brand. She says, I'm a bit concerned about their use of stevia and erythritol. Erythritol, I can never say that word. It's a sweetener made out of fermented foods, actually. It's naturally found in things like grapes and mushrooms. I'm just wondering what Liz's thoughts are on this. I think it's fine. They're obviously using very tiny amounts because these herbs and these new kind of forms of natural sweeteners are super concentrated, so you just need a tiny bit. And I think there have been some studies showing that some of the forms of sweeteners can cause gut upsets and imbalances, but that's only in really large quantities. And actually I think probably the reason that they're not using things like sugar per se is to keep the sugar levels down. I know a lot of people who are doing keto or doing low sugar diets wouldn't want to have sugar, or diabetic, obviously, you know, massive rise, type 2 diabetes, you want to watch your sugar levels. So I would imagine that that's why they are using those naturally based sweeteners, and I would think that they'd be absolutely fine. I wouldn't have any concern about that. Can you freeze yogurt and kefir? Another question coming in here. Yes, you can. I mean, frozen yogurt is a great thing, and it's a really good thing to enjoy. I think what tends to happen, as far as I understand it, is that freezing kind of puts the probiotic bugs to sleep, and then they can be reactivated when they warm up again. Whereas if you heat them, particularly if they get really hot or you're boiling them in food or whatever, then that just kills them off altogether. But yeah, you can give them a bit of a lie down in your freezer if you want to. So I am now going to take this and I'm going to add to it the tomatoes. So I was in my local shop, my local village shop, and I found this range. This is called Suma. I don't know whether you've come across this, but these are organic chopped tomatoes, and they weren't any more expensive than the others. And what I liked about this, I looked at the label about Suma, and it says, we are a cooperative of ordinary people built on integrity and equality for more than 40 years. We're committed to sourcing the most delicious and sustainable products, inspiring change for good. How about that? There you go. So simple changes that we can make into the brands that we decide to support and buy can make a big difference to other people around us. So I'm now going to tip this. This is a 400 gram tin, so just a regular tin size. That's going to go in. Oh yeah, these are softened really well. So that is just going into there. You know, if you've got any particular herbs that you love, like basil would work really well, because we know that the combination of basil and garlic is a really good one. So that's just cooked down nicely. My boys actually love peppers, particularly red peppers. You know, my little one, my 10-year-old, my red peppers like this, they just disappear, because he will sit and he'll, take it out and he'll wash it and he'll just eat it like an apple. Which does the same with cucumbers, just sits and munches his way through a cucumber, which is good, could be worse habits, couldn't there? So then what I'm going to do is, ideally you'd wait until this kind of thickens up a bit, but I'm not going to wait here. And then you make 4 little indentations, 4 little holes, if you like, in your mixture, which I've just done, just using my spoon. And you get 4 lovely eggs. Ta-da! These are eggs that come from my chickens. Some of them have got stamps on because they were actually destined for our village shop, but they are, I promise you, from my chickens just out there. And let me use a small bowl, because what you're going to do is you're going to cook them in the mixture. So just break the eggs one at a time, and then you're just going to pop them into that, very carefully into that little dip that you've made, and that's when they're going to cook. So I'm just going to do 4 of those. This is actually my lunch, and my boys as well, if they are about. I haven't seen the teenager yet, but it is only, what is it? Oh my goodness, it's 1 o'clock. So yes, he should be up, but I'm not sure that he will be. Last one is going in there. You can add some salt and pepper on to the top of that. And then when you serve it, I'll show you just what I'm going to serve it with, just because they probably won't have cooked in time. But let me show you that amazing, I don't know whether you can see that, but that's the colour of a natural pasture-fed chicken's egg, with a chicken that has been allowed to peck and scrap about in the outdoors, as they should be doing. So yeah, that's it. So that's going to take about 5 minutes, and then when that is cooked through, you just crumble on the top some feta cheese. I've got some feta cheese here, which I'm just going to crumble, and pine nuts. Pine nuts are a really good addition, a really good kind of Mediterranean dish. So I've just got, I keep these actually, these are toasted pine nuts. I keep them already toasted, so they're just ready to sprinkle on. And then if you want, I shall probably use about half this, so that the bits that my boys eat, they can have coriander sprinkled on the top. And my bit will be coriander free. Oh, lovely comment here from Sally on Facebook, who says, when I lived in Hungary, the locals ate pale green peppers like apples. Another comment from Marie saying, I love all Suma products. Great, so you obviously know these guys. In fact, this was another tin that I bought, which I'm looking forward to trying. This is organic cherry tomatoes, which I've not seen before in a tin. So yeah, really good. Lovely, well that is just about it. So thank you for being with me. What can I tell you? Nothing really, apart from if you want the yearbooks, I've got those here at the farm. I'm sorry that all the back issues of the magazines that I've got here I think have gone, but I am going to go back and have a little count up and see what I've got. Thank you for all your lovely comments about Liz Earle Wellbeing, the new magazine that is out. I gather it is out in the shops now. It has hit the newsstands, which is really good. I'm going to be back here tomorrow, so 12:30. I will probably be in the sitting room. I might even be in the garden if it's a lovely day and there's no wind, because it is Garden Day UK, and I'm going to be making live a huge, beautiful flower crown, which I'm really, really looking forward to. Actually, to make this cook more quickly, you should actually pop a lid on it. I should say that. Anyway, you're going to have to take my word for it, but it does, when it has finished, look just like that. So that is my brunch. I hope you enjoy. Have a lovely, lovely rest of the day. And yeah, keep in touch. Send me comments. I don't do direct message, just to remind everybody on Instagram. I can't cope with it because it's just one step too far. But I do reply to my comments. Same on Facebook. So do keep them coming, and sending you all lots of love. See you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Bye-bye.